Welcome. In this demo, we are going to present you some features of the T-Logic release management for SOA, in short TRMT. TRMT is a perfect tool for application lifecycle management in the SOA environment, where the large number of dependencies among service versions and their clients presents a significant challenge for development and IT operations alike. TRMT's unique feature is to discover these dependencies automatically via source code analysis. In addition, TRMT helps administer the whole development process from designing the contents of a release and developing it in parallel branches, if necessary, through creating consistent releases and finally deploying them to a compatible environment. This way, TRMT provides visibility and control for release managers and tool support and automation of several development and IT operations tasks, altogether resulting in higher quality applications and more efficient and controlled development and operations lifecycle. Thus, TRMT can help comply with the ITIL requirements for release management and effectively supports SOA governance and the service-oriented architecture. The purpose of the demo is to briefly demonstrate integration with the incident handling process, the possibility of parallel developments, the TRMT plugin built into Eclipse-based tools, and the merging of modifications, performed in different branches supported by TRMT. Our story begins with the event that an incident arrives to an incident management system, in our case Bugzilla, for the customer management application, stating that the customer detailed data cannot be displayed on the graphical interface of the application. As an effect of this, release manager of the customer management application examines the problem, i.e., she checks which release runs in the production environment, so in which one the error occurred, and makes sure that the error is really there and that it needs to be fixed. After doing this, she can check that the error occurred in release 1.1.2, but the development has progressed since, and currently release 1.1.4 of the application is under development. Since the observed application error occurred in release 1.1.2, she needs to start a new release process starting from this original situation. The release process is a development process that has been started on an application and has its own individual lifecycle. Here we can see now the release graph that is a graphical representation of these release processes. So she started a release process 1.2. Following this, she assigns the demand to a developer and specifies in the comment that the actual error has to be fixed in the release process 1.2. The demand has reached the assigned status in Bugzilla, and as an effect, it was transferred to TRMT. Since now it's already sure that the error is real and must be fixed. Following this, using the realization menu, the release manager of the application assigns the transferred demand to the release process 1.2 open now, since the modifications need to be performed in this. Based on the notification email received from Bugzilla, the developer starts the development. So she opens a new empty workspace in her development tool, in our case Eclipse. Here we can see the embedded TRMT plugin that accesses directly the TRMT database, so it is able to provide a pretty large functionality. For example, we can view the demands of the current project. Here we can see the demand that we have recorded in Bugzilla and that has been transferred to TRMT. Besides this, it supports the automatic checkout, i.e. the automatic retrieval of source code from the version handling system. We can specify which release process we'd like to work on, then it offers from the components the ones that have been transferred to this branch, i.e. bug fixing release process, and all the external components containing external interfaces and the used libraries, guaranteeing through this that the developer can start working immediately, since a complete compilable environment has been created. So the developer can start developing immediately. After performing the development, the developer commits the modified code into the version handling system. Following this, she logs into the TRMT system and delivers the modifications. So she marks the project she worked on, the components she developed, respectively the release process 1.2. After this, TRMT retrieves from the version handling system the files that have changed. Running the analysis on these explores the possibly newly formed external dependencies. Following this, the developer declares that the customer details demand has been fulfilled in this component. So, the error described in the demand has been fixed. She also declares that the testing of the code has been performed, respectively, that the necessary documentation has been written. Clicking the delivery button, the code is delivered in TRMT. Through this, all the modifications performed by the developer become part of the release. Being notified about the completion of the development, the release manager logs into the TRMT interface. In the release demands menu item, she checks whether really all demands have been fulfilled in the current release. We can see that they have been, since if this wasn't the case, then this component would be displayed in red, signaling that the involvement of this component in the demand has not been fulfilled. So we can see here the demand. It can be seen here that the release can be generated, closed, since all demands have been fulfilled. By closing the release, the manager captured a consistent status in TRMT that can be built, then deployed in the different environments. So she must order this release to be deployed into the test environment, and she has to make sure that the error has really been fixed. Following this, she has to make sure that the modifications performed in the bug fixing development process get transferred to the main development process, since the error is still there in the main development process. Therefore, in the release processes menu item, after making sure that the error has really been fixed, she closes the bug fixing release process and merges it with the release of the main development process that is currently under development. So we merge the release process 1.2 with the main development process 1.1. If we have a look at the graphical representation of the release processes now, then we can see that the error occurred in the release 1.1.2. We started the bug fixing development process. From here, the error was fixed and tested in release 1.2. After this, the release was closed and the modifications need to be transferred to release 1.1.4, which is the release of the main development process that is currently under development. How is this supported by TRMT? TRMT registers all demands recorded for a bug fixing development process, marking them as from merge into the main development process, into the release specified for merging, and associates them to the release. So if we check now the release demands in release 1.1.4 of the main development process, then we can see that our demand associated with the release process 1.2 did show up next to this component marked as from merge. The developer's task is to fulfill this demand by merging the modifications performed in the bug fixing development process with the codes in the main development process. This way, The bug fixing was transferred into the main development process. Obviously, the release cannot be generated until it doesn't fulfill this demand. Thank you for your attention.